Ever feel like you're on that treadmill? Working, but not getting ahead financially.
Ugh, tell me about it.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into the book that kind of sparked a whole movement, I guess you could say, about money.
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
That's the one, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki. And to really get into it, we're not just using the book itself. We're also tapping into a recent podcast discussion he did.
Oh, cool. So we're getting like double the Kiyosaki wisdom here.
Exactly. So what we really want to do today is, see if his advice actually holds up, explore that whole mindset shift he's always talking about,
Right.
and most importantly, figure out what you listening right now can actually take away and use.
Love that. Practical stuff.
Because it's one thing to read a book, it's another to actually apply it, right?
100%. And I gotta say, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's almost like a love it or hate it kind of book.
Good point.
People either like swear by it or they think it's total BS.
Yeah.
But either way, it gets people talking, right? Which means it's hitting on something we're all thinking about.
For sure. And I think one of the things that hooks you in right away is that story about the two dads.
Oh, yeah, the rich dad and poor dad.
Yeah. So you've got Kiyosaki's own dad, the poor dad, who worked super hard, had a great education, but always struggled financially.
Mm-hmm. Classic story.
And then you've got his friend's dad, the rich dad, this successful entrepreneur with a completely different way of looking at money.
And it's not about like putting one dad on a pedestal and the other one down, right?
Go ahead.
It's about those mindsets. The poor dad is kind of like that traditional thinking, work hard, get a stable job, save your pennies.
Right.
But rich dad, he flips the script. He's all about money as a tool to actually build wealth, not just something you earn and then spend.
And that brings us to that line everyone knows. Poor people work for money. Rich people make money work for them.
Bold statement.
It is. But what does that even mean in real life?
Well, that's where the whole idea of assets comes in, right? Like in the podcast, Kiyosaki hammers this point. It's about shifting your focus. It's not just about making a ton of money at your job. It's about building things, assets that make money for you, even when you're not working.
Okay, so this might sound kind of dumb,
Go
but
for it.
isn't a big salary the goal?
Yeah.
Like, that's how most people think you get rich, right?
I mean, yeah, that's the conventional wisdom, but Kiyosaki's saying that's not the whole picture. He's making a distinction between income, the money you get from your job, and assets.
Okay.
Assets are things that put money in your pocket even when you're, sleeping.
Got it.
Things like rental properties, stocks, maybe a business you own.
So things that are working for you.
Exactly. Instead of you working for the money, it's about building a system that keeps generating more money, even if you, want to ditch the 9 to 5 someday.
Freedom, having options. That's appealing.
Exactly. And Kiyosaki argues that just depending on a job, even a well-paying one,
Yeah.
can be risky, right? All your eggs are in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have assets, they kind of act like a safety net, a way to build long-term wealth.
It's like you're playing the long game, not just sprinting for that paycheck.
Exactly.
And that's where financial education comes in, right? One thing Rich Dad, Poor Dad is kind of critical of is, regular school. It says, we're not taught these money skills.
Yeah, big time.
And it's funny because I think a lot of us can relate to that. How many of us actually learned about investing or managing money back in school?
Not me.
Yeah, it's like a missing piece in our education,
Totally. We're taught to be good employees, but not necessarily, smart with our money.
Right.
And Kiyosaki's saying that understanding how money works, how to make it work for you, that's the key to breaking free from that whole paycheck to paycheck cycle.
So it's not just working hard, it's working smart with your money.
Exactly.
But how do you actually become financially literate? Like, Kiyosaki doesn't really give you step-by-step instructions, does he?
True. He doesn't. But what he does say is that financial education, it's a journey, right? It's not a one-time thing. He's all about, seeking out knowledge. Could be books, courses, finding mentors, whatever helps you understand different investment strategies.
Yeah.
Learn the principles of building wealth, managing your finances.
So really empowering yourself to make good decisions with your money, not just doing what everyone else does.
Exactly.
So if we had to sum up Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like the main message, the core of it.
What would it be?
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
It goes back to changing your relationship with money, right? Don't work for it, make it work for you.
Okay.
Build those assets, become financially savvy, and take control of your future.
Powerful stuff.
That's the heart of what Kiyosaki's saying.
But it can feel kind of overwhelming too, right? Especially if you're just starting out.
I get it.
So what's one thing our listeners can do today to start putting this into action?
It doesn't have to be some huge, drastic thing. Start small. Maybe read a book about investing. Look into a side hustle,
Yeah.
something that could become, passive income down the line. Or even just track your expenses for a month. Just see where your money's going.
Awareness.
Yeah. The key is to take that first step.
So it's about shifting your mindset, educating yourself, and taking action.
Hmm.
That's great advice. But here's something for you to think about as you start this journey.
Yeah.
What would your rich dad, that wise figure in your life, advise you to do right now to get your finances in better shape? Just something to think about.
I like that.
We'll see you on our next deep dive.